Welcome back. I had a chance this past week to get away, and so I didn't do a video last week because of the fact that I wasn't around. In fact, I tried to get away from everything I possibly could. I didn't check my email much. I really didn't look at my phone. I wanted to really experience the place that we were going, so I got rid of all of the distractions, and it was fantastic. See, my wife and I committed a number of years ago. Our kids are at an age now where they're able to go do stuff with us, and it's fun. They're adventurous, we're adventurous. My wife and I connected because we liked being outside, we liked being outdoors, we were athletic, we liked doing those types of things together. And so we committed when our kids were of the age where they could do that stuff with us, we would go adventure and see things we've never seen before. This week was one of those weeks where we've been saving. We take a family vacation together purposefully. We work hard so that we can save up to go do things that will make memories for years to come. This past week was a memory-making week. We got away to Arizona, and it was incredible. I've actually never been to the state of Arizona. I didn't realize how beautiful it was. Flew into Phoenix, and then we drove up to the Grand Canyon, spent some time in Sedona, and we adventured. One of the highlights of the trip, though, was climbing this thing called Bell Rock. Here's a picture of it. From the bottom, it doesn't seem to be something that's too crazy, right? As you look at that picture, you see you pretty much climb right up the face. There isn't much of a trail. You just kind of hike up the mountain. You find little handholds and you go to the top. From the bottom, the perspective's pretty cool. It's a really neat rock, and as you look around, you see other rocks similar to it, red rocks and plateaus and mesas and all sorts of different things that you're just like, wow, that's incredible. And then you get to the top, and the picture looks like this. It was incredible, and it was a completely different perspective. See, from the bottom, you couldn't get that view. You couldn't see it, which is the way it is in life for so many of us. Many of us are still at the bottom of the rock, and we're looking up, and it's beautiful, and it's great, but we're so stuck in our view and our focus that all we see is from the bottom. We don't take the time, we don't make the effort. See, that climb wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to get to the top and stand there and see the view. It was hard work. And there were parts where you're sitting there going, I don't know if I should do this. Which is exactly the way that life is. If I'm going to see life the way that I should, it takes work. I can't just stay in one spot at the bottom and look up. I've got to be able to work hard to climb to the top and see the perspective around me and not try to force others to see it. You see, there are going to be some people that never make it to the top. And I know that. In fact, as I showed that picture to people, in fact, as you're looking at that picture of me at the top looking around, you may be sitting there going, I will never make it there. You're right. You might not. But I want to share my experience with you so that you understand it and you can see it the way that I did, which is what we must do in life to help people get a different perspective. We need to share our experiences with them and encourage them, even if they can't make it to the top, of what it could look like if we all together said, hey, this is the perspective that we should have. There's a lot of stuff going on in our world today. A lot of people sharing their perspectives, going, my perspective is right and you need to listen to me and I have the answer, and on and on and on and on. And as I said a couple weeks ago, it seems like we live in a world where there's two perspectives. There's this or that. Well, how about a third perspective? You see, I think that's what we need. We need a third perspective to see it a little bit differently, to see it not necessarily from the bottom, and maybe not even from the top. Maybe it's somewhere in between where we can see it and we can get a better understanding of it to where we can experience it in a way that we never have before. There's a lot of issues right now in our world today. One specifically is this thing called the Equality Act. I've been reading quite a bit about it, been reading both sides of the argument. One side saying it may be the defining moment for the Biden administration, that this might be the greatest thing that Joe Biden will do in his presidency. Right off the top, he's going to make it happen. There's another side of it that's sitting there going, this could be the greatest threat to religious freedom that we've ever experienced in our culture. Well, I think it's somewhere in the middle. You see, I think there's a third perspective to this. And the third perspective is, I think this Equality Act should be a mirror that we look into to ask the question, is this who we are? Is it a defining moment, or is it a threat, or is it somewhere in between? See, what I think it is I think it's a glimpse into the culture that we live in, asking a lot of questions, going, what do we really believe? What do we hold on to? What is true? And there's a lot of opinions out there, and many of us are not seeing eye to eye. Some of us are at the bottom of the mountain, some of us are at the top, but most of us, I think, are somewhere in the middle going, isn't there a different way? There's got to be a different way. And things like the Equality Act are a reflection of who we are as a people. Are we willing to be those people? I think we need to do a better job of helping others see our perspective so we can get a middle line somewhere. It shouldn't be a threat. And at the same time, it should be an understanding that there are people out there that are hurting, that need to be loved. And yet there is truth. We've talked about that over the last number of months. If you've been watching these videos, I've talked about truth. I do believe deeply that there is truth. But the way that we practice it is much different than the policies that we enact around it. See, I hear a lot of people wanting to enact policies and put things in place where it's a fine line, or I shouldn't say a fine line, a hard line between this and that. But that's not how life works. See, as I was climbing that mountain, every time I turned around, I saw something different. When I was at the bottom, I had a much different perspective. When I got halfway up, it was another perspective. And when I got to the top, I saw 360 degrees around me. And it was absolutely incredible. See, we need all those different perspectives. And then we need to look at each other and say, so how do we live this out? What does it mean? We don't really need more policies to tell everybody, well, you need to treat each other fairly. You need to make sure that we're all equal. No, we need to really live out what it is that we believe. And this is where I'm specifically talking to Christians. I think that this Equality Act is a direct reflection from our culture condemning us for how we've behaved. And that's really tough to swallow because we've created a lot of policies telling people do this or do that. And instead of practicing what it is that Jesus taught, we've told people you can't do such and such. Well, there is truth. There are things that we shouldn't do. But the most loving of teachers help people understand that in a way that they're cared for and loved no matter what the situation, so that they can see Jesus in the middle of all of it. See, that was the most incredible thing about that journey up that mountain. I got to the top. I was with my family. In fact, my whole family made it up there. Here's a picture of all of us on the peak. You know what we did when we finally got to the top? We spent time in prayer because we stood in awe of God. See, I believe that God created this world for us to love it, to live in it, and to care for others while we do it. We have such a short period of time here on this earth. Let's not waste it. But let's look at our culture and see the things going on around us and use it as a mirror to say, how should I then live? And then let's love others all the way through it so that when they see us, they see Jesus through us. Have a great week. See you next week.